Test.
It is back to back. Design project management, from concept to reality, delivering the spirit and integrity of projects in the real world. That's a lot to talk about. But let's just start. We have 15 minutes on the clock. We'll try to establish a conversation. We'll do that for 40 minutes. And towards the end, I'll leave some room for questions. So if you do have any in the meantime, write them down, type them in on your phone. We have 2 mics set up in this space. We have to use those because of COVID. We cannot have somebody with a microphone going around. So we'll get there. I'll let you know when the time is right. Let's start with a quick round of introduction. Can you tell us who you are once again, what you do, and something exciting that you're working on? Ladies first, Vera?
Yes. So I'm Vera Diekmann. I'm the founder and creative director of XO Atelier. We founded XO Atelier 1.5 years ago in Hong Kong. Since a year we're in Dubai, and we got listed under the top 50 on the Architectural Digest list and on some other lists this year. So we won with our first project a Global Design Award, and we're doing currently projects in Dubai, Saudi, Abu Dhabi, Al Ain, and London.
Good evening, everybody. Alessandro Tedesco. I'm the CEO of CBC International. We are a procurement management consultancy firm headquartered here in Dubai. We have 9 other offices around the world. We do primarily hospitality projects, but also big residential. And we basically take care of the execution of part of what designers like Vera and others realize on paper. And then the other part of the execution is normally taken care by a company like Saad.
Good evening, everybody. Saad Masmas, Managing Director of Mont Interiors. Mont Interiors was established in '86 in Dubai. That's 35 years, and we're very much a local company. Despite the fact that we've been here around for a long time, Dubai is still the major business for us. We do across the board, but we concentrate on high-end business, whether it is hospitality, retail, F&B, and offices.
Thank you. So, did you work on the installation at the entrance of Hall 3?
Yeah, we had a lot of fun, yes, doing that installation. Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about it, for those of you who haven't seen?
We had a call from Christina Zanek. She was commissioned to do one of those installations. She had a concept of creating something that represents getting out of the Corona period. So she came up with this structure, coming from a smaller volume to a larger volume, and it gives you that sort of comfort. It is exactly hopefully what's been happening, especially in Dubai. So that is a representation, and we had like a lot of discussion between Christina's office and our factory on how to build such an interesting structure, because it's quite massive in volume. So it's been quite an interesting experience. And honestly, after the fact that we spent a lot of time on it, I said that this looks nice. Honestly, I personally love it, and I'm gonna find a permanent home for it.
Oh, fantastic!
Yes.
That's great. That's great. It is beautiful. For those of you who haven't seen it yet, it's, I think it's Hall 3.
Hall 4.
When you enter, it's hard to miss. It's hard to miss. So it's the work of Saad and Christina Zani. All right, moving on to our topic. Where to start in this, really, when I was doing my research, I thought, oh my God. But let's start with you, Vera. Yes, how do you start each project looking at it with a fresh pair of eyes, starting from scratch again? Because the project that I've seen from you, they're all very unique little gems, and they're very new, they're very similar, but they're also very different.
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, we have, in this case, I think most projects which are now located here in Dubai, they're all from one client. So I cannot even say, okay, we usually have different clients. So that's not the case, specific with these three, not. So it's always the same client, but of course, this client has a clear idea or gives us a theme or a brief. And most of the time it's because it's F&B, it's food related, and based on this we start and we develop to create, we start very visual. I mean, it's very, with lots of images, it's not very related to a specific physically design of a room and a really texture and structure of a real existing building. So our presentations are very based on moods and on atmosphere and more on catching. When the client looks into this booklet, then he feels like, ah yeah, I want to be there, I want to be in this place. But it's not really showing much of, in the beginning, not really showing, okay, this is the ready-made space and that's how it is. So our first conceptual design is really like, it's images, it's mood, sometimes it's just textures of water and color things or lighting, inspiration, and then we're moving on and bringing it into more and more, and then of course there comes a render. And then with this render, we of course bringing it, and of course we have the drawings, and then we're bringing it into the next step. But normally the client is different, and that's why the projects are different. So of course, yeah, as you said, so we have a design language, I think, quite visible. There's a certain kind of style in it, but
how would you describe how would you describe your design language?
I think it's somehow it's modern. I mean, it's very modern actually, quite minimal, very yeah, colorful. No, colorful not really, but we try to play with different colors and different textures and create this kind of like a kind of a strong feeling of, okay, you want to touch the surface. So it's different surfaces. We play sometimes with structures and textures which are not usually used in a F&B concept. I mean, sometimes you realize, okay, that was not maybe the best idea, but of course, in general, it works out, and that's sometimes, of course, it also needs a client who gives you this space of freedom, and the client literally only saw a sketch and some random color samples of the glass when we did this with Preciosa, and she said, yeah, proceed and go on. I mean, this is very visionary also, because you don't usually have a client who says like, yeah, great, move on. I mean, I don't really know how it's going to look later on, but spend my money, that's great. So that's, of course, the point. So freedom, creative freedom and space, and also trust from a client. I think that helps you to create new things, and not to say like, because there comes the question, when specific, if you design something really new from scratch, there always comes the question, okay, I cannot imagine it. Can I see it somewhere? Can I have a picture? And based on the fact that you not copy Pinterest, you don't have a picture. So it means like you can maybe do in a sketch and you can show them, look, and this is be like this, and you can do a simulation on 3D, but you can't show them a picture. And that needs a lot of confident by the designer to say like, no, you can't see a picture because we want to do something new and we don't want to copy. So if you want a picture, you can take that, but then it's not you. And that's sometimes the challenge where we are in. So it's quite difficult because we currently have a few projects which are very visionary, and I think it's very hard for the client to understand that. I nearly tried to break up the relationship twice, and last time the client fell on his knees and said, don't leave me, and I was like, okay, here we go.
Do you feel like people come to you for your signature style, if that's what you would call it?
I don't know if they do. I mean, yeah, maybe they come, but I think they also come because our project have one thing all in common. They're very well executed. So and there we come again to this point, because from concept to execution. So I'm into all our projects from the beginning, also from the first thing to the last. So I usually overlook even the selection of FF&E and OS&E table shares, blah blah blah. But also I lead very close the execution team. So we have meetings, we discuss points, and if there's durations, we look into okay, how is the mock-up? We create mock-ups and detailed points, and I think that's very important, because you cannot just take your concept booklet or your design and give it to someone.
Yes, we agree.
I believe you have worked together. Have you all worked together?
No,
Or is it
not
just-
yet.
no,
We
not
are
yet?
gonna soon.
Am I still okay?
Yes.
So how
We're
would you
two
work?
different businesses, two different
Yes, the different approach.
approach. Yes, yeah, but basically execution. We're in other fence with them.
They're all friends, so they're not saying anything now. No, I'm joking.
But actually, the same fence.
So Alessandro, what can you tell us about delivering that spirit? What does that mean to you?
We can say that we are very lucky, both on the procurement side and on the contracting side, because we have the fortune to work with all these designers, which are extremely, artistic, eclectic, with many different ideas and, how can I say, vision of the single thing, but in a different directions. The reality is that the implementation can be as easy as difficult. It all depends by different factors. Procurement side, it's more really a problem related to budget of execution, unfortunately. In the sense that the perfect job is where, but the reality is extremely different, unfortunately.
Sad, how's that for you?
Talking about budgets, we just had a discussion with Indu just before this we start. Who sets the budget?
Yeah. Yeah.
If the budget is set by an accountant, then we are all in trouble. Yes. If it's by someone who's really understanding the business, then we are all happy. Actually, this is a very important part, and that this is the biggest constraint that we have in our business, especially these days. That cost is a very big factor in every project. In the old days, the client was asking, how fast can you do it? Which was a pleasure for everybody that's in the business. How much is going to cost me?
Yeah.
We'd love, honestly, to start working at an early stage with designers, where we can talk about details of whether it is fit out or construction or manufacturing. We can come up with ideas that are practical for the designer. And sometimes it's happening in the market here, but at a very, very low scale. Because the standard way of doing business is design, tender, and execution.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult to break this. It's because everybody, or the client, need to have not only the best price that he can get, but he wants to, he wants to conquer the market for the best price possible, and this unfortunately breaks the idea of delivering the right quality for the right project. So the client will end up, unfortunately, with something that is not what he started with in the first place.
I think you would all agree that when everybody is involved from the beginning, you can all do your job probably better. Why do you think that designers are hesitant to involve people from the beginning? So you already mentioned saying it's just a habit of how we do things. But I also, I mean, for me, I've been hearing this for some time now, and there are also a lot of designers who speak up about this, like Vera, who say, like, listen, from the very beginning, we need to get everybody on board so we can give the best offering.
Yeah, but I think there's also a difference because some designers are not so, not so educated maybe, and not so confident in being involved in execution and execution details. I mean, we, or I specifically, do also product design. So I think then if you, on this level, you see design and execution anyway slightly different because you're also developing products, which means you're in and behind all the technical details of it. So now currently we're working on a light collection and light designs for an Italian lighting brand. So of course that makes you much more going into the background and step back, okay, how does it need to be, how is it nice, how does it be, blah, 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 and all these little details. But that makes you, it's really like you're very picky. So, and you move into the circles. I think some designers, for them, it's like, okay, I do my overall design. It's this kind of look and feel. It's like nice on Pinterest and on photos, but if you really go to the places and you see them, you might be disappointed because it lacks a lot on detailing, it lacks a lot on quality, but you can apply, of course, bright, nice colors and lots of light, and then it might look like, wow. But I think if you go more toned, and I assume also like a lot of people now, they realize, okay, no, I want something of substance and I want quality behind it. And I mean, it was not right. I did a project actually with Bond, but I didn't have it much. So we did a project during COVID now, during lockdown actually, and it's a project which is based in Saudi, and the team of Bond, of Saad, did for us glass metal walls, and the glass came from Hong Kong, and they assembled them and produced them here, and we reviewed the mock-ups, and then they have been all packed and shipped and wrapped and in huge wooden crates. I think that the things have been 4 meters long or something, huge boxes. They all went to Saudi, and then they arrived there, and they're now installed on a construction center where I have never been. I really did this project completely over Zoom calls, videos, and conference calls, and I've not been in my project itself. So but they're there. Your pieces are wonderful, and they're installed. So very good, very well done. So from Hong Kong to Dubai to Saudi. So yeah, and I think that's going into things like that detail makes it so special, because we know the most prettiest things are actually having a very simple design. I mean, we all know, right? I mean, looking at, for example, a Porsche, the real 911 never really changed much. I mean, it got a bigger ass, but we all know that, everything. So, but it's a great shape, and its shape never really has been reinvented. So great design does not need much, but it needs detailing. Because if it's poorly executed, you will maybe rip it out in 2 years, and you will say, no, it doesn't function, it's not nice, it's not well done. So I think that's the point, and that's the focus on it now, for everyone. I mean, for you in your big projects, for Saad in his team, because the factory is literally, focusing only on execution and on, excellence and quality, my opinion.
That's the idea.
That's the idea.
Also because, it depends also, lost out of focus in the sense that it goes down all to the initial budget of execution. Without thinking that if you shrink too much certain areas, then undoubtedly you're going to pay that after a few years when whatever product you have bought is not done in a way how it should last for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And we in the Gulf in general, we had a lot of examples of that. Okay, and you can really see and compare projects that were executed with the right budget from the beginning, and projects that unfortunately didn't have the right availability of funds, and after a few years they need to redo everything really, if not everything, a lot.
You're talking about the right budget. In the second minute of this conversation, we were already talking about budget. What is the right budget? What does it mean to you? Do you feel like, maybe this starts with you, Vera, do you feel like clients are more honest about their budgets nowadays, and that would probably save you guys a lot of headache down the line?
They need to be.
Yes.
And they should be with the designer first, because don't forget that designers are perfectly capable to design to budget, but they need to be aware of the budget.
Exactly.
So the moment that, maybe myself as a client, I would say to a designer, how do you want your house? I want the best house in the world.
Exactly.
Yes, fair enough. But if you put me 3 elevators and 4 slides and 3 swimming pools, then maybe I don't have the money to execute that.
Yes. I mean, we unfortunately we have one case who got unfortunately hit by COVID, and it's a very nice project, and we also started it, but due to COVID, the client got in financial problems, and now the project is on hold because we can currently not proceed. So I think that's something. We all know COVID hit a lot of people. So, but also here we see, and he doesn't want to compromise on the design. So he said, okay, we're putting it on hold for a while, and then it all will come back and we will pick up, and so we can move on with this. But I think, that's of course a very tragic case, and where you see also like, okay, so it's not only hitting other areas, it also hits an area like the UAE. And but in general, clients come they come with the number, they have a budget in mind, and if it's too low, I tell them, or we tell them. We tell them, listen, I think for this, you can't get that. So and then of course they say, oh, I love this project so much, and then of course we have like rough numbers, you have a framework, and you can say, okay, for this, you can't get that. Mm-hmm. So, it's just also, I think you need to be that honest to a client and to be fair and transparent, because you will put yourself in lots of trouble if you just do it because to take it on as a project. So that doesn't work, because in the end, if it all works out, the client comes back to you and you do another project and you do another project and another project. If he has maybe restaurants, of course, if it's a villa, he hopefully doesn't have so many. But that's the case. So I think, numbers people are more aware of what's there, and also about what things cost nowadays.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sad, you wanted to say something earlier on?
Yeah, what Alessandro was saying was correct, 100% on budget. But I pick up your question is that it's not, honestly, when it comes to contracting to our side, the client never reveals his budget. It will be a pleasure if he says, but in my experience, it never happened. But if it does, then it makes everybody's life better, because you can proceed faster. You can save a lot of time. You'll be surprised now. We price our job, and we say, okay, the client is having a certain budget, and then we tell the client, sorry, the budget that you're talking about is not possible. Then he comes back and says, okay, you can add a little bit, until we reach the right price with them. So it's different, that's straightforward.
It's a little bit like you're selling a camel, it's a bit like a trade.
But
maybe it's the culture of
but it's also the team. So it's a budget, yes, and it's the team as well. So if you have the right team from the beginning, as Vera was saying and Sam was saying, the interaction and the communication, then you really experience an execution which is smooth.
Yes.
No matter if you have challenges or problems, but the team is so cohesive that everybody knows what is the target, everybody knows what the client is looking for.
Yes.
And then everything, falls into places. It's like, I don't know, it's like to look an image out of focus or an image in the perfect focus. You see all the details, you know what I mean? And then many things are automatic. You don't need to go through all the reporting process that you have in a project management environment, which are correct. But, if we understand each other, then we can make something clarified in 5 minutes, also with a contractor like Saad, instead of waiting maybe a week that goes throughout all the process. And if you add all these problems and issues that you find in a project, you save months.
Do you ever get lost in translation between different parts in the Can you tell us a bit more about it? We want to hear about the
Sometimes you have
challenges.
incredible loss in translation.
Sorry.
Sometimes you have incredible loss in translation.
So are we really physically lost in translation? Or
I mean, in terms of-
translate language issues?
No, I don't mean like understanding language,
I mean,
but understanding
understanding.
what you mean. And like, for example, for me in my business, what we do is we connect designers with the realms of business. So we often see that people in the business field speak a different language than designers. So I meet them in the middle, you know, I make it easier for them. I don't mean like if people understand English and everything, you know,
Of course.
perfectly, but
Sure.
from your idea to reality to
Yeah.
completion,
Yeah.
how do you, I want to hear from each of you, how do you manage that?
Should start? Because I talk always so long.
I'll start with you, Alessandro.
With me?
Yeah, with you. You were the most worried.
No, I'm not worried, but it's the reality, you know. It's especially you mentioned that in some projects we have the architect is from the US, the designer is from Hong Kong, Asia, the contractor is from another country. We are here or in Italy or in other countries, and the client is maybe in the GCC in any place. So I mean, already this pluri-international environment has some challenges. Distance, time zone, languages, also because some companies, you know, you have many people which are perfectly fluent in English. You have some other people that, yeah, they understand English, but not 100%. Like maybe, you know, I can pick up some words in French, but I mean, I cannot keep a conversation with a friend. So this is the first loss in translation that sometimes it happens. People tell you yes, but they don't understand. You know, is you understand? Yeah, everything's clear. And then after 1 month, you have the result of it, and it's okay. No, we didn't understand each other. On the other hand, as I was telling you before, if the team is very cohesive since the beginning, then these problems are minimized.
Yeah,
Extremely
that's likely.
minimized. Because you start knowing each other, and you have what is the normal project learning curve. It happens in a stage that cannot be detrimental for the project itself, because you are still at the beginning. So even if there are some issues or loss in translation, as you were mentioning, nothing is there. You don't have a contractor that is putting concrete and putting finishing, and you need to open the hotel after a month and after 6 months. So it's the learning curve. You find it in any project. It's something that you have to go through.
Sad, how is that for you?
I mean, this is exactly correct. But there is the other thing is, I mean, Alessandro touched on the fact that you talk about people from different parts of the world working all over the world, but also when it comes to sectors, when it's a commercial project, it flows a lot more smoother than if it's a residential project. A residential, when in the commercial, people are professional, understand exactly what they want, or almost all of them. But when it's a residential project, then you're dealing sometimes with a client who's never been to site before, he's never been into a manufacturing unit before, and that's a big challenge. Talking about
I see you laugh there.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are certain levels of challenge and lost in translation things. So one is for sure the client, and I mean, my office is pretty privileged because 95% of all my clients are locals. That's quite unusual, I think, as a foreign studio. So, and I find it very easy to work with them because they all have, when they come to us, into my studio, they know what kind of style we do, and they are specific with us because they want that. So that brings us in a position where they're like, okay, you know, I trust you, do. That's very, very nice and very great. But I also have, of course, we have 2 foreign clients, and they literally are
giving us lots of headaches because they come also because they're Italians and they always know everything better because they're Italians. They have they get the design for breakfast and that's exactly the point. So and it can drive you sometimes quite nuts when you have them. And then you think that okay, that's one challenge. But then we also you have whatever. I mean, you have a delivery, you have a project because we get lots of items from abroad. So lots of furniture, they come and they're manufactured in Italy, and then we get them delivered. So, and I mean, just one thing, getting lost in translation, but not really, physically getting lost. So we got our delivery for a project which is supposed to be open tomorrow, and we unpacked everything, and then I was like, okay, but there's half of a light installation, which is custom made, missing. And and then after several phone calls and several whatever, we realized literally 2 boxes have been left in the warehouse while they repacked them for the cargo to be in a plane. So, and these are things that can happen. And then, of course, you need to, you have a client who's getting, of course, there's an opening, they get nervous, and it's like, okay, which fault, who did this, first of all, no one of us did this, because, you order, you do, you confirm, you get a perfect confirmation slip back, you unpack, half of your light is missing. But these are things that can happen. And I think what you then need to be, and that's the most important thing, you need to be calm and you need to convince your client, okay, we're going to handle it and we're going to make it work. Next to other challenges which are coming, but I think the worst is that you also start to panic and get crazy about it.
Alessandra, how do you manage expectations?
With a good team.
As Italian.
With good team, good partnership. So for what Vera was just mentioning, is something that is very common. Maybe you are producing something, or you are buying something from God knows where around the world, and you are not there.
Yeah.
So how can you make sure to do that? That's why we decided 2 years ago to do a global partnership with DB Schenker, which is a German global logistic provider. And we overcome this because we basically go in the factory for the loading, also in places where FBC is not present themselves. We have offices in strategic position around the world, but we cannot be anywhere. Okay, and last year with the pandemic, it would have been an issue, but in reality, it was never an issue in the sense that you control the production, you check the material before it's packed, you check the material when it's packed into the container, and then you follow up all the process until the delivery inside. Now, I'm not saying that this is 100% guarantee that you don't have issues, but you minimize them in a very, very, very big scale. So you leave very few opportunities of mistakes. And the team is important because the people that are doing the job are at the end the one who pay the extra attention to make sure that everything is correct. So they can be relaxed and everything is at the right time.
One important thing I can add is that it's good to have a professional project management office because they can pick up all the pieces. They can solve the problems of the translation you're talking about, the language issue between different professions. Project managers can handle client expectations, can handle contractors, can handle manufacturers and suppliers. He'll be like the maestro of the project. And honestly speaking, wherever a good sized project, business flows, I would say, a lot easier than when we are simply dealing with the client direct.
Anything that you've learned from the pandemic or the past 18 months in particular that has maybe improved the way you work now, or things that you have seen that you can do different That's a question for all three of you before we move to questions.
Yes, in many ways. First of all, I mean, we tested in a proper way what they call business continuity, so work in a disruptive environment at the beginning, which was very satisfactory for us. I would say that the whole industry, for what we do, has understood that a meeting doesn't need to be all the time face-to-face, but you can have also meeting over the call, which does not eliminate the face-to-face interaction, which we all love, but especially when you work in big projects with multinational companies around the world, it helps a lot. And of course, we learn more from our side to rely on the resources that we have around the world and their performances, because then, you know, when you cannot travel, I cannot say, okay, I go there and check tomorrow. She cannot say, I go to a site in, I don't know, Saudi Arabia tomorrow morning. He cannot say, I go and check my project in another country, because you cannot travel. So in our case, I mean, we are lucky. We were lucky because we had already a structure in place. We tested it even more, and the feedback, the result was good. Now, we identified also the problems, and then we can work on that in order to optimize it even more.
Sad, what's your biggest takeaway from this? Yeah.
Well, it's during this period, of course, it's the supplies and shipping. This is something that we had to manage from day one. I mean, interestingly, this is the question that was asked to us by clients when we signed up contract last year in April, May. Can you control material delivery? Fortunately, Dubai is an open market, and there is a lot of stock in Dubai. I think Dubai stands out, honestly, in that respect. But there are certain products that you'll never be able to procure because of the shipping issues. And after the world has started to open, cost of material has escalated substantially because of the shipping. It's not only because of the Suez issue. That has caused on delays. There are a lot of force majeure for suppliers and as contractors, but cost of shipping has more than double. You do a lot of shipping more than us.
Container from China to Dubai to the GCC was almost 4.5 times more.
4.5 times more.
Yeah.
Wow.
It became a luxury product.
It's good to be in shipping these days.
It's true. Vera, any final thoughts
final thoughts on this?
What you've taken away from the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's. You know, we have our teams all over the place currently still. So we now have a few here in Dubai, and we open our office in a month, hopefully, or in 6 weeks. But they're still in Asia. And I mean, for me, being in Dubai doing lockdown, and that's where I stuck when I came and team in Asia. So it was very, we communicated a lot over email, Zoom calls and all this, and I think what we learned, they worked quite well, and I'm not so sure if they want me to come back ever. So I think they're actually quite happy I'm not there. So, but it's actually quite close. So, and I realized that it's not anymore so much the team in Asia, they're not so connected to our normal office hours. So they actually know we have a deadline, and for them it's just to finish, and it doesn't matter if we have now a Saturday or it's evening or whatever, that's different. Because when we have been in the office, it was like the normal workday from 8:30 to 6 o'clock, and then of course you go, but it's now, the time. And now it's this changed. So I think the people know you can be very happy and you're very privileged if you have work. So, and that's what now, I mean, what I realize has changed with the stuff at my team, and the designer and also the draftman, that, or our visualizer. So there's a project, we have a deadline, okay, I finish it. And it seems like, I mean, I always say like, hey, you need to have a break too, right? But then, oh, I send it to you in the night, and I sometimes feel like, oh my God, that's crazy. So, but they see it like this, because they see it like, okay, yeah, we have work, so we're privileged, let's get the deadline and deliver. So I think that's changed a lot, because people see also that we are or I am much in the responsibility for them, because we kept all team members even during lockdown, and so now I think they are all very, very committed as well to these things. Materials and stuff like this, of course, that was challenging, and I remember my first visit back in the Quadrat showroom, so after lockdown, and I was so happy to touch all these fabrics, because there's some of the team members from Quadrat over there, so that's something it's hard to do over video conferences or over emails. Yes, you can see colors, but not really good, and it's just much better if you have them all physically. So that's something. And of course, being on site again, like being really seeing things, being there, and not only like, okay, yeah, now I'm sending you all these drawings and someone is doing and providing something far away and then showing you a video going towards a place. It's challenging. But yeah, so I think it brings people more together, and I think there's a stronger communication in between. If you have a strong kind of group to trust, so that works. And the others, they have to fall off the table. Sorry.
All right, we have a few minutes for questions before we wrap it up. Yes, please. Can I ask you to use the microphone? Thank you.
Hi, how are you guys?
Hello, I'm fine. I can hardly hear you.
Closer, closer. You can lift it up a little bit. Yeah?
Better, much better, yes.
My name is Umair, and like Mr. Saad, I also have an GFR company.
Yes.
And my question is to you, Vera.
To me.
Yeah, but before I go on to my question, I would like to thank you for such a nice event. So the question is that, like Mr. Saad said, that he goes back and forth with the client until the budget comes up. Well,
yes.
We are a small company and
yes.
we do interior fit out,
yes.
and I've made it accessible for the normal man to actually be able to renovate his space
yes.
by not even having a designer, just giving them ideas on top of my head due to my experience, change this, change that. And because we have a internal project management within our company,
yes.
they are comfortable by telling us the budget, and we then suggest the type of sanitary and tile brands that they can buy, right?
Okay.
So my question to you is, not as a business owner for this company, but as a visionary in design,
yes.
how do you see design being more accessible to the common man? Because right now you do F&B and all the big commercial projects and whatnot, but for example, I cannot afford you, right?
I don't know. It depends.
I'm quite confident. Believe me, I cannot. But if I want to renovate my own bathroom, for example, right?
Yeah.
So how do you see as a visionary, not as a business owner, because
yes.
Which designer or how can designers make it accessible for normal people to afford design?
I think we're quite affordable, but that is always, I don't know so much. We don't do so much real estate, that's correct. So residence is not really our specialty. We're going to design some items which are going to be available on the wide market from next year on. This year they have been postponed. They should have been launched at Milan 2021, but due to COVID they postponed it for 2022. Then it's quite affordable. I think you can buy some of the items designed by XO. It's always a question of how big is the project and how much input do you need, right? So we offer our service also for smaller projects, also for smaller F&B and also for apartments. But yeah, and that, of course, due to workload, it gets more and more difficult. So, we're quite approachable, and we always try to help people when they have something on mind. Yeah. I hope so.
All right. Anyone else who has a question? Yeah.
Hi, can you hear me? My name is Hamad. I work as a project manager with a consultant dealing with clients. So now when we do a design and we make sure that the contractors follow the design, but unfortunately after the pandemic, everybody is focusing on time and cost. Like when can you finish and how much can I save in this project? But it's really hard to control quality. So what do you do as a designer, as a contractor, to control quality in these times? Because everybody, all clients, everyone wants to save money and finish fast.
Control quality, deliver within the
Goes to
budget.
you.
Quality and delivery time starts from the board. Now there's no more board, no more conventional board, which is your computer, from the drawings. You make sure that you need to employ the right contractor who starts really with that process. You design. I'm not talking about designers. You design the manufacturing or the installation part properly, in the sense that you use the right material, use the right details, and be clear. You put as much detail as possible in the drawing so that when it goes to execution, it's easy for people to understand. It's easy for the designer also to see exactly what you want to do. Make sure that they are happy with what's.
If it's a difficult point or something in a construction thing, we usually ask for a mock-up. Like, if you have some, whatever, if it's something which has to be built in and it's something you create, but it's a bit more complicated, we ask for, a corner detail or a mock-up detail, which we then afterwards review and approve. Because, you can save a lot of money if you create, a 50 by 50 real thing, and the client says, yes, that's exactly how I want it. Perfect, the material is great, everything's fine. That's the example. Then building, a 4-meter kind of frame, and then everybody says, well, I don't like that one. Right? That's normally how we do it. So we work a lot with mock-ups. So.
Yes. And the selection of material.
Yes, exactly.
Make sure you find something that is local as much as possible.
Yeah.
Thank you. We can do one more question if anyone has any. I'm willing to do 3. A quick one. Oh, no? Yes, please. Yeah. Can I ask you to use the microphone right behind you, please? Thank you. Hi. Hi.
My voice loud enough? Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, thank you. It's too high for me. Yes? Okay, no, that's fine. So my question continues from the discussion just now. How do you control the quality when you go from the small mock-up to the real size? Because I'm doing small products compared to the project scales you're talking about. So I have a brand for luxury decor accessories, and I face a difficulty with small objects. I always ask for mock-ups and they come perfect and I love the quality. But then when I ask for the actual quantity that I want to do, I don't get the same quality. So I always fall into that, and then I feel bad for the material wasted, for the effort wasted, both from my side and the manufacturer's side. So how do you go about that? Because I don't think a mock-up is really translates to the actual big scale thing. I don't know what happens. Maybe things go faster or something. I don't know.
I just have to explain it. So we do the mock-up in the real size. So literally, if you have, for example, a corner detail, we do the corner detail, which is just a cut out of this, but this is the real size. If we do a furniture, we do it in the real size. So it's a one-on-one mock-up. If later on the items are not matching, we refuse, it's rejected.
Yeah, so that goes to SAG, I think.
That's a quality control.
Even when it's on a full scale, which
Yes.
I do for my products,
Yeah.
even though the actual one piece in the mock-up looks perfect, but then I tell them, okay, let's do 100 or like 50 of this, then the quality just drops down, or I don't know what happens.
Question for you.
Yeah, that's a quality control issue.
It's a problem. I can tell you that nowadays, after the pandemic, for us it's becoming even a bigger problem. The only way to control it is you need to be in the production site, or you have someone that you trust in the production site, in the manufacturing plant, in the factory, to control. That's the only way you can do it. Otherwise, also because
The simple answer, you employ the right contractor or the right manufacturer. Who has a proper procedures.
Yeah, actually I'm very selective in choosing. So my brand is pretty small, like for decor accessories I have a booth here, and I chose a contractor which actually have done stuff that are in Guinness records and whatnot. But still, when it goes to like the actual number, I get shocked with even font, how it comes and stuff like this. So for a startup, it becomes really challenging because you don't have the many resources of the person you're mentioning, that someone needs to be on site. That someone is actually me, because I'm the only person in show. So yeah, thank you for your answer.
That's a true issue, and maybe on you as a client or a designer on your part, then you need to spend more time with the manufacturer or the contractor. Make sure that it is done properly.
I have a question for you. You said you're a startup, right?
Yeah.
Where can we see your products?
2E72. My brand is called Tajreed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank my panelists, Vera, Alessandro, and San. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's it. That was quick, right? There's so much to say about this topic, right? I feel like we could go on forever, but I have to move on to the next.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's our last talk of the day already. We're talking career paths, a moment to do things differently, question mark.